Okay, so today we're going to try something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
We're traveling back to 1976, yeah,
Right.
back to high school.
Oh, wow.
But not just any high school. We're diving into Vice President Kamala Harris's years in, get this, Montreal.
Really?
Montreal. You sent in this article, and let me tell you, it's packed with those who knew moments that totally change how you see her.
You know, it's funny how these periods that aren't really talked about much can be so impactful.
Right.
Yeah. And the people who knew her then, they say it had a big impact.
I bet. Okay, so picture this. 12-year-old Kamala goes from sunny California, right, straight into a Quebec winter. Can you imagine?
Oh, talk about a culture shock.
I've moved cities as an adult, and even that's rough. I can't imagine as a kid.
And it wasn't just the weather. Quebec's separatist movement, think about it, it was in full swing. English schools were closing left and right, like there was so much tension, and she's right there in the thick of it.
Oh, totally. And on top of that, her mom, who's a researcher at McGill, she decides, let's go all in. French-speaking school for Kamala and her sister.
Wow.
Yeah, talk about commitment to immersion.
Wow. You could really start to see the seeds of that drive that she's so known for, right?
Right.
I mean, new country, new language, this politically charged environment. That's a lot for anyone to handle, especially as a teenager.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, right, did those years end up shaping how she approaches things like bilingual education now?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you can see the connection.
For sure.
But even for someone as determined as her, the article mentions that she was homesick at first, which makes total sense, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially back then, right?
Yeah.
No social media, long-distance calls were a luxury, so staying connected to California must have been really, really hard.
Totally. It really paints a whole other side to someone we usually see in such a public and polished way.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And that's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
Remember those school closures we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, the one Kamala was supposed to go to, it shut down.
Oh, wow.
So she ends up at Westmount High.
Okay.
And the article describes it as like the Beverly Hills of Montreal. Very affluent.
Wow, what a shift, right? Like from full French immersion to like the Canadian Upper East Side. That had to be a culture shock, even coming from a place like California.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And it was a very unique mix because Westmount was taking in students from all these other English-speaking communities that were being displaced.
Right.
So you've got this blend of different backgrounds, social classes.
Okay, see, now that sounds like high school movie material right there.
Right.
All these different groups suddenly having to share the same space. I mean, was there tension?
The article kind of hints at it.
Yeah.
Some classmates described Kamala as being shy initially.
Really?
Even mentioned she was bullied,
Oh, wow.
which, makes you think about how those experiences, even if they're from decades ago, really stay with you.
Yeah, no, totally. It's a good reminder that everybody's got a story, right? Even someone who's like, in the spotlight like this now.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like she doesn't shy away from a challenge, right? Didn't she join, like, a dance group?
She did. Midnight Magic, an all-female troupe.
What? Tell me more about this.
They even made their own costumes, performed at all the school events, even retirement homes, apparently.
Hold up, retirement homes. Now I really need to picture these dance moves. Was it like hip-hop for the time or something more like...
The article doesn't really give us the specifics,
Okay.
but there is a quote from a classmate who said that at the time, they thought Kamala would go into entertainment just based on how much she came out of her shell on stage.
Get out! See, this is what I love about this. These little glimpses into a totally different side of somebody. From shy and bullied to, like, commanding the stage. There's a whole other path her life could have taken, reading this article, there was a part that really stopped me in my tracks. Like, it goes way beyond the typical high school stuff,
Yeah, this is where we see a totally different side of Kamala, one that really foreshadows her future.
Okay, so the article mentions this classmate, Wanda Kagan, and she confided in Kamala about being abused by her stepfather.
Wow.
And Kamala's response was not just to listen, she insisted that Wanda come live with her family.
Wow, that's huge.
I know, right?
It's such a powerful detail because this isn't just giving advice or offering kind words. This is taking action, like taking on a real responsibility at that age.
Totally. And it makes you wonder, even about that time period, right? Like, was that something that was more, I don't know, acceptable then, because today there'd be hopefully so many more systems in place. But like, what risks was she taking, even bringing Wanda into her own home? And it really speaks volumes about her character.
Oh, absolutely. And it's even more powerful because Kamala's actually spoken about this experience later on, and she cited it as a major reason why she became a prosecutor, like seeing that abuse firsthand and wanting to be a voice for people who need it.
It's like those years in Montreal, they did so much more than just, force her to adapt to a new place.
Right.
It really shaped her entire worldview, right?
Yeah.
French immersion, navigating those different social circles, and then this act of incredible empathy and courage.
It's so easy to forget that these public figures have these whole lives
Hmm.
that, we don't see.
Right.
And this article, it gives us a glimpse into that.
Totally.
And it makes you wonder what other events, big or small, really shaped the person she is today.
Exactly. And for all of us, right? Like this deep dive, this wasn't just about Kamala Harris. It's a reminder that everyone
Right.
has those turning points, those hidden chapters that make us who we are. And what feels small at the time might actually echo through our whole lives, you know?
Absolutely. It's about the power of those formative experiences and how they stay with us,
Mm.
even when, when spotlight's not looking.
It's really incredible to think about.
Yeah.
Well, on that note,